Uh, good, good. This is my first bilingual AMA, so we will need to switch up around Chinese and English here, but I think now is the time. Why don't we get started? See, we still started with you about talking about our vision and blah 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 blah. 好吗？还是你先来？
啊，我们今天是不是可以跳过这个环节？就你直接来吧。
不要跳过
不
这个。
要跳不过吗？哎呀，
我们已经3个星期没有做。
OK。哇，那对，
预热一下。
好吧，大家好，有1年没有见面了，我们上次还是2023年，对，今天是我们24年的第一场 Space， 然后也很有幸邀请到 BRC20的作者domo参与我们今天的交流。对，然后那我还是例行来介绍一下我们这个节目。这个节目就是由我，因为我今天登录的是我们的官推，对，我是 C， 然后由我和Rachel 还有博士，我们3个人一起发起的一档 Twitter Space。我们这档 Space 节目主要就专注的来聊比特币的生态，包括 Ordinals、BRC20，还有很多基于 BTC 的新的一些协议，包括未来可能会有 Layer 2相关的一些讨论。对，我就先说这么多吧。就今天就主要是 Rachel 和博士来，跟多们来交流，然后我更多来做这个后勤工作。对，然后我会邀请去拉更多的朋友来参与今天的这个收听。
好的，谢谢 C。我真的压力好大，因为我从来没有做过要讲中文要讲英文的 space。But I will try. So I will introduce myself. I think all the Chinese listeners here probably already familiar with 3 of us, C and Jingo and myself. I'm Rachel, co-founder of Alex. And yeah, we have been doing this space for 2 months almost. And we heard many encouraging feedbacks from our communities, and that we have bring in some very deep topics, and we want to continue that. And we all know that there is some dispute or disagreement among indexers of BRC20 last week, and we want to clarify the situation, and also we want to review what happened with the creator of BRC20, which is Domo. He's here today, and he, like a doctor said, you don't need to guess what happened. You don't need to hear the gossips. You just need to stay here in this space and ask Domo what has happened and what will happen in the next, in the future, and etc. So I'll give my the mic to Dr. Jingo and let him introduce himself.
Hi everyone, Happy New Year. Very grateful to have Domo here for the night space. And yeah, I'm Dr. Jingo, and most of you might know me. And I'm one of the hosts of this 3 Bitcoiners with Rachel and C. Yeah, that's me. Thank you. 我需要翻译成中文吗？
不用了，我们关键的问题翻译中文就行了。
Okay.
不是很关键。Okay, then I will give the mic to Domo to introduce himself, although he doesn't need to introduce much, but still, Domo, mic to you.
Hey, thanks guys. Great to be here. Hey, I'm Domo. About 10 months ago now, I created the BRC20 standard. Prior to that, I've been in crypto for a number of years, mainly focusing on data-driven strategies. And then, yeah, for the last 8 months or 10 months, I've just been trying to maintain BRC20 to the best of my ability with the great help of all the indexers around me.
Okay, cool. 我觉得这个部分我不用翻译了，就是 Domo 说他是他自己就对了。还要再introduce 多一个嘉宾，就是 Alex 的 CTO Chan 在这里，他今天就是出于帮助我们的这个目的，他今天在这里就是我们可能需要他就是 translate 或者是elaborate some of the conversations. So hey Chan, do you want to say hi?
Am I allowed to say something?
Yeah.
Yes,
Hello.
please.
I'm not going to say I was disappointed that my name was mentioned on the flyer, but that's okay. Good to be here. Happy New Year to everyone, and very excited to hear today what just happened with the BRC 20, and maybe some alpha of what we should expect to see in the next weeks and months for the meta protocols on Bitcoin.
Okay, cool. Thanks everyone for the great introduction. I think it was quite a volatile day because people are the market was very volatile today. I think it's good that we're gathering here today to be talking about these very important matters and using a Chinese language is 补充一点信仰. Okay, then let's get into those important questions and 干货. So Bosch, I will leave to you for most of the translation. Is that okay?
I think we have 3 interpreters, right?
Okay.
And major work should be 安老师.
Okay, no, 安老师的中文这靠不住. Okay.
Anyway, yeah, let's
okay.
try.
Let's try our best. Okay, I'll get started. So we all noticed that last week there was a big disagreement between Layer 1 Foundation, BIS, and Unisat regarding the BRC20 indexers upgrade with Jubilee. And fortunately, I think, especially until now, we have seen a very good outcome from it. And all the indexers achieved consensus. And so far, so good. So far, everything looks working well. So today we have Domo here again. We want to review the whole event, what has happened, and what is the outcome, and how we should look at the future of BRC20. So first question.
Should I translate?
Yeah, please. Short one. Short one.
OK. 好的大家好，这个晚上我们很有幸的请到了 domo， 因为我们都知道在过去在 L1F 还有 BIS 跟 Unisat 之间有一些小小的这个关于 BRC 20索引升级方面的一个小争议。那么今天我们很幸运的请到了这个 domo， 这个到目前为止就是我们看到了这个索引的升级是非常成功的，而且大家保持住了这索引的这种共识层的这种维护。好的，那我们长话短说，就是进到正式的环节。Is that okay?
Yeah, so I think the first question to Domo really is, as a creator of BRC20, you proposed a phrase to version 0.9.0 last year, September. And you also proposed that not to follow the ordinals upgrade. So we want to understand why you proposed that. What is the reason behind the initial proposal?
Yeah, I mean, the original proposal was pretty simple. I think there've been a number of issues that resulted from the ORD versioning that we had, mainly discrepancies between ORD versioning. So for the updates that came after 0.9 and all the way up to 0.14, there was marginal improvements from the ordinal side and that would benefit BRC20, and it just became more risk from bug implementation side, right? As for the Jubilee itself, like I've always said, I think adding the new inscription types would be amazing, but really, as it stands, the indexer community has no way of safely validating and coordinating an update of that degree. Moreover, with 4 days notice, it was impossible. So that really was my stance, that I always wanted it to occur. But within a month and a half to go, we all agreed that we didn't have the infrastructure in place to move ahead with it, let alone 4 days out of the blue. So I think this was really at the crux of my perspective.
Okay, got it. 博士，你想翻译这个部分吗？
我要想一想，你来不？要不
OK， 所以 Domo 他说的就是，其实一开始提出这个phrase 这个就是它 0.9.0 版本的这个冻结本身出于的这个初衷考虑，就是说之前的 ORD 版本里面和 BRC 20之间它出现了一些这个discrepancy。怎么讲，就是差异吧。这个差异在从这个 0.9 版本到现在这个14版本中间呢，这个 order 的升级并没有更好的去优化这些 discrepancy 和对它做出一些就是去弥合它的这种动作吧。所以就是从 domo 的角度来考虑的话，这个带来的对整个这个 indexer protocol 带来的风险肯定是大于它的这个升级的这个好处的。他是当时是这么考虑的。Then I would like to break down.
等一下，对，Domo, maybe you just take 1 minute or two just to explain why we did the freeze in the first place and how that relates to your thinking around this particular upgrade.
Yeah. So, for instance, the freeze or the pause, I think partially something that got me to hot water here was the nomenclature. I think if you named it pause, we would have had there would have been less of a narrative war in that regard. So the pause or the freeze, whatever you want to call it, originated when a bug was surfaced in the transition from 0.8 to 0.9. The interesting thing about that was actually 0.9 fixed the bug that was in the ORD client for a number of versions, and basically caused minor discrepancies in validity across these inscription types. This caused divergence across a number of indexers. I think it was interesting because at the time it was relatively split down the middle between the different indexers. I think Magic Eden and OKX were still running 0.8 and a number of others. And then I think the majority of others were either running bespoke implementations of ORD or the latest 0.9. So at the time we came together, we reached consensus. And remember, as the community had really hammered home that they wanted all summer long, they wanted a decentralized indexing, decision making, and community, right? So we built that and made decisions accordingly. OKX and Magic Eden transitioned to the decided outcome, which was 0.9, and then from that point on, in the interest of safety, we decided to freeze. But what's perhaps lesser known is that this took about 5 days for it to be resolved, right? Like it was like just freezing the implementation was a gargantuan effort of coordination. So the idea of doing a update as significant as Jubilee without the infrastructure that we're currently building ready, it was, to me, reckless, at the very least. So I think, again, this is really kind of giving some color to the perspective I had this week. Really, if you can summarize it down, is that we'd love to update, but it just, in my opinion, wasn't safe to do so. So, yeah.
So, 我用英文整理一下，so
你用中文整理一下。
中文这个就是，我还是用英文吧。那个，so the reason why again we froze or paused to 0.9 was, if everyone recalls, a few months ago there was an incident where a few indexers had different balances of audit held by the Binance wallet, hot wallet, right? I think the difference was something like 300 million and to 800 million, the difference of 500 million. Now, a difference like that, a divergence like that among indexes can be very scary. So that was precisely when we realized, and Domo included, and everyone realized the consistency and the standardization among indexers to preserve the history of BRC20 is very, very important, and which was quite different from the ordinals, if you like. So that's why we paused. Now, and then as Domo said, it took about 5 to almost 1 week to get to the consensus and made a decision. Now, what we made open back then was, so long as consensus is reached, we can and we will upgrade, we may upgrade to a future version of ORD. Now, the reason why there was a last minute discussion and in the resolution, as we all know, is because the time we had to have the discussion and to upgrade to Jubilee was only something like 1 or 2 days. It was brought up too late. And then that's why there was this discussion. But people, and then there was a year-end, problem of communicating while people were on holiday. Yeah, all of which has resulted in a very good conclusion, in my view.
OK，那我简单的这个翻译成中文一下吧。就是为什么会冻结在0.9.0，是因为大家都记得原来有一个索引，一个小的索引，找出来跟这个主流的这个索引之间的差别可能非常大，余额可能差了好像几十万枚这个奥迪。那么这个其实是非常不可以接受的。那其实当时花了5天左右的时间吧。基本上1个礼拜左右，大家商量的所有的主流的 indexer 在一起商量说，那我们把这个索引的版本冻在这个 Audi 0.9.0。那导致这个原因其实就是，刚才这个安老师说了，就是说它因为这个 Audi 版本的不一样导致对明文定义的，实际上我认为是定义的不一样导致的这种差别。所以就是，在这次升级以前吧，就是可能留给所有，因为是过节的期间，对吧？正好是圣诞节假期、新年假期，留给大家去讨论，还有形成共识的时间其实非常短，可能就只有短短的1-2天时间，要去决定是否升级这件事情。所以这件事情其实还是非常的，这个标题稍微有点标题党，叫“惊魂120小时”但其实。在这个120小时里面，这个参与的各方确确实实可能都是夜以继日的在讨论工作这样子。对，我不知道大概是这样的。对，我是意译不是这个同声传译
翻译出了这个精髓。那我可能补充一点，就是之前domo提到的，就是说。之前在0.9.0之前，那么其实像他提到2次，就是 OKX 和 Magic Eden 还在跑这个0.8.0，然后其他的 indexer 已经在跑这个0.9.0。那么在这个过程里面呢，其实就是出现了一些问题，出现了一些这个跑出来的结果不一致的问题，还有等等。那么刚才博士和安老师都用中英文都解释了，中间出了一些数字上的问题，这些问题。对于一个 fungible token 的协议来讲是非常非常关键和重要的，所以这样一个在大家共识的，在所有 indexer 的这个讨论和共识的基础上，大家决定把这个版本pose 在0.9.0刚才domo也反复讲了，就是说当时取这个名字用了 freeze 这个词 ，freeze 叫冻结嘛。他说，如果当时可能用 pause 就是暂停这个词，可能对现在的就是上周发生的这个事情的影响可能会再小一些，因为这个pause 这个词本身只是一个暂停键嘛，那么什么时候再启动，或者是说启动到一个什么程度可能就比这个 freeze 听起来要灵活一些。那么我们接下来就是继续，其实这个我本来接下来一个问题我是想问the phrase is meant to be a permanent change or just a temporary plan, or there is any other plans to follow the Ordino's upgrade? Actually, I think Domo already answered that, but I still would like to have Domo to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was always yeah, I touched on it, but I think it was always meant to be a temporary upgrade. My stipulation was that we needed the infrastructure in place. I keep on going on about it, but namely the coordination and validation infrastructure in place to proceed with an update of that scale before I was comfortable of moving forwards. And I think that's coming shortly. I think things like that will enable the turning on in certain features within the 0.14 versioning, like batch inscription or whatever, if we deem them appropriate and beneficial to the standard itself. So really that's my stipulation, is time, coordination, validation, and really just the consensus amongst the indexer community. Like there isn't much stipulations. I would say that's really it.
Got it. 所以 domo 就是说，其实从一开始这个本身就只是一个暂停，而不是一个永久性的一个措施，只是一个临时的措施。但是他反复强调在说的其实就是几个条件， 满足之后就可以去升级。那这个里面就包括他提到这个 infrastructure 就是说我们现在所有的 indexer 是不是都在同样的这个都有同样的这些基础设施都准备好。同样的还有一个就是大家互相之间的 communication 是不是畅通，是不是在同频。那么还有一个就是 consensus， 我觉得对 domo 来讲最重要的就是这个 consensus， 因为在我跟 domo 的很多 conversation 里面，我觉得他提的最多的就是这个 consensus。好。I think we can move on to the next question is really what happened in the last 5 days. I think people here listen to our space probably all noticed what is the views from Unisat and what was the views from Domo, from L1F, and from BIS. So we try to break down to different views and then combine all the views back together and see what has happened and why we're achieving here. So initially, I think Lorenzo also mentioned he called me while I'm on the way to the airport, and he talked about the upgrading. I was still in my holiday mood, but it then becomes a big thing that I didn't expect. So Unisat seemed insisting to upgrade with Jubilee, and actually this question I might give to Dr. Jingo and then Domo. Do we know what is the strong reasons behind that Unisat insisting to upgrade within such a short period of time and or on such a short notice?
Who first? Domo first?
Domo first. Yeah, let's Domo
Yes,
first.
please.
Yeah, I mean, that's all speculation from my perspective, like from my behalf. All we can say is that they did do this with 4 days notice. And I think, again, really, it's like, I think the biggest confusion here is why would Domo oppose this? And I think for my reasoning has always been that it didn't give enough time for the rest of the indexers to collaborate, get things done safely and robustly, and really posed a risk to BRC20 itself. It was less of a opposition to the decision itself. It was the manner that it was done, the unilateral decision, and the somewhat disregard to the peer indexers.
博士，
来，要翻译吗？还是先说？
你可以翻译一下吧，然后就说一下你觉得你在这个事件里面观察到的，可能的一些原因。
刚才多莫主要其实说的是，他知道这个消息的时候，其实只有将近4天的时间。那么其实4天的时间，其实对于其他的 indexer 来说，要做出升级跟随的决定，其实也是非常的，包括技术上的处理的时间也是非常的紧迫的。所以作为多莫来说，我觉得他更多的是在维护或者说这种维护 indexer 共识方面吧。我不知道他有没有提到这个，但是就是基本上是这么一个东西。But from my observation that I think there's a demand for the service provider to upgrade to one indexer, so they don't need to maintain 2 indexers, including the BRC20 and the inscriptions. That's my thinking. 我觉得就是服务商提供这个升级的这个原始动力，是因为不想维护这个2套索引，一套 BRC20的索引和一套 inscription 的索引。这2套索引维护起来，其实对于 service provider 就是服务提供商来说，它可能是一个比较麻烦的事情，或者说比较成本比较高的事情。I think that's the major reason that like Magic Eden, they just upgraded because they don't have much transaction on BRC20. So when Jubilee come, they just upgrade to a 0.14 version. Yeah. So 安老师有什么想说的吗？
Yeah, I mean, I just want to highlight one. We earlier said the freeze or pause wasn't meant to be permanent, right? Given enough time to socialize and build a consensus, and given enough time for everyone to prepare. And one thing Domo and then everyone mentioned was, again, given the nature of the BRC 20, preserving the correct history and not altering it is very important, in particular because we're no longer playing with a toy project here. We're talking about a standard that is supporting more than 3 billion in the market cap, $3 billion US that is. That didn't exist actually 1 year ago, right? So I think that is very important that everyone needs to give due care. Now, when I had a conversation with Lorenzo, and he called me in his desperation, to give to his credit, I think around 26th or 27th of December. Now, the idea was, it was year end and then holiday. Everyone was away. It was very difficult to get hold of everyone. Everyone at the same time was busy focusing on what they wanted to roll out into the new year. The problem then people realized, and it wasn't only actually Unicet and Lorenzo that realized, but it was also raised by a few other indexes as well, but not perhaps as forcefully as Unicet did. The fact that you have to maintain two systems, one adhering to 0.9, and the other one to 0.14, is actually, it can create a lot of the possibility for people to exploit. And the likes of Magic Eden, who focuses almost exclusive nowadays on ordinals, the choice is simple: upgrade to the latest. But to those players, and most of our BRC20 indexers do focus both equally on the BRC20 and the ordinals, the challenge was real. But then again, people always thought it is something that we can manage, and that was the sentiment into the holiday year end, and that's what I thought as well. Then we realized it wasn't the case. Something had to be done. And then Lorenzo frantically tried to find people, and that sort of, again, it was unfortunate, the combination of the last minute effort to drive the consensus during the holiday season, and the Jubilee launch coming up very shortly. So it was a combination of those, and then that's something that we discussed among ourselves as well. That's also what everyone saw.
OK， 一句话总结就是都是过节惹的祸。
对的。
但是总的来讲，我觉得就是每一个人从他自己的角度出发，我认为在这个思考和决策过程都没有什么没有任何恶意，或者说没有什么bad intention。那么最后变成了因为时间的紧迫和communication 的这个 lacking， 导致了可能有一些就是一些比较大的这个 disagreement， 但是最后幸好也解决了。那么 back to the question to Domo is, Domo, we know you actually tweet a few times, long articles. The first time you tweet, I read it and I feel, oh, no one would know what happened because it's really long, and the way you address it is really how would I say, diplomatic. So then you had another tweet. So I know this time because we have had a few conversations, and I know your character, and you're more on the softer side, and you're more on the calm people side. You're more like not like me, probably the opposite of me. So I want to know why this time you feel you have so much concern, and you feel like you have to say something. You feel you have to address this issue on the public media.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is not my nature. I feel it's uncomfortable to me, but it was to the degree of the uncomfort I felt towards the unsafety of a full Jubilee app update without broad indexing support and coordination and validation beforehand, that I felt compelled that I had to say something. Yeah, and again, this kind of public action and calling out is somewhat uncomfortable to me. This conflict, but in my opinion, it had to be done. We had to try anything to kind of arrive at a solution, which we ultimately did, because I think people really are unaware of the danger that was posed with a update of this scale with that many days of lack of testing. I think, if I'm being perfectly honest, even Unisat didn't have the time to test their indexer before the deadline that was going ahead, and potentially is one of the reasons we managed to arrive at a solution in the end. I think it was really quite scary and stressful last week in my regard. If you forget all the personal disputes, and I wish this was done privately, but really I felt like I had to act with every lever I had at my disposal, and fortunately we arrived at a good outcome.
OK， 谢谢多姆。我觉得我简单翻译一下吧，因为确实就是像我刚刚那个问题里面讲的，其实多姆这个人的个性是通常他是比较佛系的，他是总是希望能够聚集更多的 consensus， 然后再 take action， 然后通常有什么比较急的事情，他都会take it，他都会比较 calm 啊，会比较慢一点去 react。但是他说这一回他觉得这个里面就是冲动的去升级，或者是说在这个紧迫的时间下面去追这个 Jubilee 的 14 version 的话是非常危险的，是不负责任的。因为现在我们的市场，其实刚才安老师也提到，我们现在这个市场不再是半年前那个 toy model， 不再是那个小的市场，是我们就是社区里面几个人玩的市场，而这是一个30亿美金的一个市场，安全稳定是对所有的对这个市场的保护，也是对每一个市场参与者的这个怎么讲呢？就是一个最重要的一个核心点吧，去 protect 这个 market。Okay, then I'll come back to the question to Dr. Jingle. So I think Dr. Jingle didn't have any holidays. He's been paying attention to what has happening around Ordinals upgrading, around BRC20 indexing, around everyone's opinion and agreement, etc. And I know he's talking to different parties, talking to Unisat, talking to Domo, talking to Casey. No one paid him, by the way. So I really want to know your opinion, Jingle. So what is your opinion initially? And how did you foresee this accident will taking forward? Have you expected it will end up like this?
That's a really good question. That yeah, I think I made myself very clear from the initial beginning that I agree with An Lao Shi and Domo that BRC20 has already like 5 billion, 3 billion capital market, and it's no longer early days. We can change any definition easily. We can change, upgrade to whatever you want. So I think I made myself very clear in the initial beginning. I think on one hand is I believe blockchain is permissionless, and I can understand, each party can act, independently. They don't need permission from anyone, even Domo, right? Magic Eden just upgrade as the best version for their marketplace. But I think on the other hand, I didn't support any one-side actions. Let's say there are many reasons. I think basically the first of all that it's quite important to keep safety first, to keep all the assets holder like BRC20 assets holder. Their assets is totally 100% or 99.99% safe. So an upgrade might cause at least 1% or 0.1% risk on your assets. I don't prefer that way, because even unless you have a very sufficient evidence that, motivation to upgrade, then we should remain where we are. That's the normal. I think that's the correct way we do things. And second, I think the one-side action is actually break the consensus somehow, right? We are not easy to reach, stop at, or freeze at, or pause at 0.90, but break that is quite easy, right? Just to the major player just announced I want to upgrade, even it's technical feasible, but I don't think it's a good methodology for the ecosystems. Yeah, and as you mentioned that even not much time for the test or A/B group test, right? I think once we do some change, we need to do carefully to do the A/B test to let 0.9.0 server running, and other side we upgrade to another things to monitoring if there's any difference after Jubilee upgrade. So that's my key point, that I hold the same view that with Domo and An Lao Shi, Dr. Chan, that for the BRC 20, the future of the BRC 20 IT safety, the safe of your assets is the most important than innovation. Yeah, that's my basic view.
你要不中文再说一遍，不然我帮你翻译一遍。
对，我说一开始的时候，其实我就还是，跟Domo还有安老师的这个观点是很像的，因为我觉得一方面就是区块链是无需许可的，对吧？我们也能很理解这种就是，每一个player 每一个玩家都可以做自己的决定，比如说 Magic Eden 它就完全可以，这个升级到这个0.14.0，但是呢，我觉得有几个方面是主要原因，其实前面有讲过了，就是不支持任何单方面的这种贸然的行动，因为 BRC20 已经不再是这个小小的游乐场了，而是现在有30亿到50亿规模的一个资产。那么在30亿到50亿规模资产的情况下，那么在效率和安全或者是创新之间，那么我觉得，首选的应该是安全是第一的，任何一种贸然的升级可能都是对行业的信心是有所动摇的。然后第二点呢，就是说这个单方面的这种 announcement， 其实对一种联盟式的这种索引的这种组织来说，它是有一点点破坏共识的，因为早先是冻结在0.9.0，那这就是大家的共识啊。0.9.0怎么来的？其实前面也解释过了。那其实破坏共识本身是一个比较危险的事情，我觉得无论技术上是否可行升级，对吧？那从方法论上，我觉得是不对的，就是可能这种，尤其是 BRC20 索引，对吧？是在链下的，它是这个资产其实最核心的，也是最脆弱的一部分啊。所以对，我觉得BRC20能发展到今天，其实有一方面是得益于多摩的这种无为而治哈。就是在协议方面改进会非常非常小。那么，如果他天天改，那可能 BRC20已经不是能发展到今天这样子的。对，所以我是这两个方面，从一开始我觉得我的观点其实就还是比较鲜明的。OK。
好，谢谢博士啊。其实这个 Domo 这个无为而治这一点，我觉得 Lorenzo 其实也自己也讲过，其实他跟我提过，他觉得就是这种开放的协议可能是跟其他的协议比，可能这是一个最大的优势，让这个市场有更大可以去发挥的空间，让它有更多可以去 grow 的空间。我觉得这一点我们所有人都同意。By the way, Domo, I translate back to you is that we are, including Lorenzo, he has been mentioned that to me a few times, that we all appreciate that how you react to all the issues and how you feel that you need to be more relaxed in terms of upgrading or editing the protocol so that the protocol has the biggest room space to grow itself and become the biggest L1 protocol on Bitcoin. So another question here is, so we know how Unisat wanted about the upgrading, we know how Domo look at the situation. Do we know how the other indexers react to it and what is their attitude? Like OKX, who is the biggest player in this market at the moment, and also like BIS, best in slot, and also Hero, and some other indexers. Do we know how they look at this situation? Do they agree or disagree to the upgrade? Domo first.
Sure. And I think this was some nuance that was lost in the past week, is that most of the indexers don't really have a strong opinion of the future of the standard. They don't wish to control the standard itself. They just wish to reach consensus and the best way forward for the standard as a whole, right? So I think if you look at it purely technically, I think a lot of indexers would be quite on side with the solution we eventually arrived at, which is not actually having to run two environments. And I totally understand that. However, I think every single one of the other indexers would have held issue at the way we arrived there, just to lack of communication and collaboration. I think really that was, again, the biggest problem there. And I think if you can imagine it from these indexer perspective, it put their business at risk. Like Hero, Best in Slot, they all have thousands of developers as clients, and being forced to upgrade to something with very little testing and very little notice, it puts their business at risk, right? So I think that is another issue. OKX has the biggest marketplace. They likely didn't have the testing time that they or period that they would like to have. So again, it's not the decision itself; it's the way we arrived there. I think the other indexers would hold issue with, and I think even if Unisat were to do it again, I think they would have taken a different approach and gone from broad support, and we could have done this smoothly.
Yeah, I agree with that. So,我来翻译一下 Domo 这一段话。所以就是我刚才提的那个问题，就是我们知道 Unisat 当时是想要 upgrade， 但是 Domo 和L1 Foundation 是反对。那么其他的 indexer 都是怎么样的 reaction？ 那 Domo 从 Domo 的角度来看，当然我们从旁观的角度来看，其实也是差不多，就是其他所有的 indexer， 包括 OKX 也是几乎是准备 run 2套系统，就是升级版和9.0 版本。那在这个过程里面，实际上留给大家所有人最后去测试的时间都非常非常的紧。我还记得，就是大家最后达成共识的那天，然后 OKX， 他们就说你们就是这么匆忙的做决定，对，给他们留下的这个测试的时间不够啊，实际上是有一点点怨言的，但是最后还是大家都共同去做了这个升级。那么Domo 刚才讲的就是说，如果大家都觉得如果能够留出更多的时间来讨论商量，然后做测试，那么肯定是更负责任的做法。如果 Unisat 之前想到他们提出这个升级会带来这些这么大的市场波澜的话，可能也会 take 一个更保守一些的这个方案来推进这个升级。所以overall 我觉得就是还是一个时间的问题，还是一个沟通的问题。OK，then 博士有什么要补充这些地方？因为你也跟什么 OK 也聊，然后其他的这些 indexer、BIS 什么的，你都跟他们有聊过，你有没有补充？诶 ，Hello。
Sorry, can you hear me?
现在可以了。
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I think Domo has made it very clear that I think the first time I found this something interesting in the middle night, that OKX, the product leader, just post several two Twitters, I think, to discuss about the possibility of update, and which makes a little bit interesting and weird because Jubilee is indexed to 5 days, and yeah, that attract me my attention on this. So I think basically OKX is saying that how market see, how will the user see this upgrade, and how the market see this upgrade, then we will OKX will remain a natural to decide whether to upgrade or not. And it's very interesting. He posted in his Twitter that saying that Magic Eden already upgraded, Unisets will upgrade, BIS will will refuse to upgrade, and yeah, that's the first time I put my attention into this. 我来说一下，就是我一开始为什么对这个事情有关注，是因为在半夜的时候，这个 OKX 的产品的这个 leader 产品的领导他发了一个Twitter， 就在半夜的时候说我们做一个技术讨论，对吧？我们很困惑，我们要不要做一个产品升级？然后呢，他就把这个几个索引的这个态度把它放出来，比如说 Magic Eden 已经升级了 ，OKX 想要Unisys 想要升级，然后 BIS 是表示反对，然后呢 OKX 我们不知道，我们需要让市场和这个共识来决定。That make me very interesting following up on this issue. Yeah, just a story about this.
Okay. Yeah. 八卦，对，这是一个
八卦。
小八卦。
But you know, that's why interesting is later on the post was deleted, so we make me more interested on it. 所以后来因为这个 Twitter 删除了，过了2个小时就删除了，所以我就觉得这个事儿更有趣了。对。
Okay. So we are to the in the end. So from the social media, we all see that every indexer agreed to upgrade to the version 14, and the whole process seems going well. Although, like Domo said, there is no enough time to do enough check, to do enough QA, but still, so far it looks okay. And the impact to the tokens like ORD or SATs seems like still limited. So I want to have a deep dive here and explore what had happened behind the scene. I see that some community members say Unisat wing. Some community members say Domo wing. I find it's very funny because there is no really win or lose. It's not that binary 1 or 0. It's actually a lot has happened behind the scene. So I want to ask Domo that is the final upgrade version, the one we're using now, is the same or different from what Unisat initially proposed?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I'm not really interested in who won or lost. I'm just interested in the fact that we managed to arrive at a solution that everyone agreed at. And I guess if there were to be something that were to be won, I think from my perspective, the most dangerous thing that I perceived about the update was put on hold until we have infrastructure in the future. So to answer your question, that's probably the biggest difference. I think Unisat's perspective of running two instances and indexers to do both their ordinals marketplace and their BRC20 marketplace, I think this resolution quelled that concern. We're now running just one instance of 0.14. And then the divergences there are relatively minor. I think there's a edge case handled on the vindication PR, meaning, and if I were to explain vindications, it's basically the previously cursed inscription types will now have a flag on them that we can ignore them moving forward, even though we're using the 0.14. And I really do want to thank the ORD team for implementing that, because even though we easily could have implemented it on our side, and we had done for testing, I think this made a large catalyst in eventually coming towards the agreement. For whatever reason, I'm unsure, but one thing I am sure is that it didn't make a difference. So I thank the ORD team for that. So really those three things is 0.14, vindications, small edge case handling in the vindication PR, and then 2 extra updates that have occurred in the recent months that have no necessary value to BRC20 or ignored. So in the end, it's quite simple. we have the exact same behavior as the 0.9, but it provides a path forward for adding the new inscription types in the future. So personally, I think it's a great resolution, and everyone ends up happy. So to start off your question at the end, I think it's a win-win for everyone.
OK, cool. 这个博士，这个你得帮我翻译了，因为后面就太技术了，我把我的问题再问一遍。那这个问题就是说，因为现在大家都达成共识，然后最终形成了现在看到的升级版本。那么，这个 Ordi 啊、SAS 这些大币，当然也没有因此而受到影响，也没有就是跌得稀里哗啦。所以总的来讲我们保护了这个市场啊，保护了我们手里的龙一龙二。那么我们在这个地方就是说仔细来回顾一下，那么这个124小时里面发生了什么啊？最后通过什么样的途径达到了共识？那我刚才其实问domo的就是说，现在看到的这个最终版和Unisat 最早提出来的这个要升级的版本是相同还是不同？那么就是说最后都说升级了，其实听到很多社区的声音，有些人说啊这个Unisat 赢了，有些人说domo赢了啊。就我发表一下我个人的观点，就是其实这个事情不是简单的谁赢了其实也不存在谁赢了，没有人赢也没有人输，这并不是一个很简单的二元论，也不是一个简单的0和1，而是这个过程我们最终怎么达到一个共赢的局面。所以刚刚domo也提到了，他不在乎这个输还是赢哈，但是最重要的是也很高兴的是我们最终达到了一个共赢的局面。那博士，我把这个刚才domo的这个回答留给你来翻译。
其实刚才domo说了3条，对吧？他基本上说了3条这个东西。我记得最后一条他就是说的是 Ordinals Team，专门为这个做了一个PR， 就是叫 Vindication， 是在这个 Jubilee 之后对主奏铭文专门加了一个 tag， 就是小标签，那个是好像是小星星，一个小红心儿。然后这个呢，就其实可以在给这个索引做测试，就包括在 BRC 20索引端做的这个条件测试的结果做了一个比对，也帮助了这个测试，而且为以后其实 BRC 20升级，在 Jubilee 之后吧，也提供了一个相当于就是 Ordinal 协议层面的一种比较的结果。对，然后前面那2个可能我没有太那个什么，安老师可不可以说一下？因为我脑子不太好，记忆的不是很清楚。
你说那个 Vindication 吗？
不是 Vindication 前面2个，
我觉得domo他其中一个说的就是说，现在看到的14版本和其实之前跑的90版本本质上没有什么太多的差异。
对，这个其实是的。
对，因为实际上有差异的部分都标记起来了嘛，对吧？
对。
我觉得他讲的主要是这个那好，那我们就是move on to the next question is so domo, you agreed to the new upgrade. Unisat also agreed to the new upgrade. I'm curious who proposed a new upgrade plan.
You still bring this one back to fight, is it?
No,
Yeah.
I'm just so smart.
看热闹不嫌事儿大，
You really want to milk this, you know?
Okay, let's pass
domo,
this
back to
one.
you. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to check the chat history, but I think
It was is that?
yeah. Sorry.
I think it was Heroes developers. Is it or BIS?
I think the first instance I saw it was by a developer named T545 on one of the initial dispute threads or whatever. And I think at the time I brought it to Betson's Thought, but not the Indexer group. I'm not sure if others came up with it independently. But again, really, it doesn't matter. It was something that was kind of mulled over for a couple of days. As like a compromise between both sides, and I think it really got momentum after the Vindication PR was pushed through. So that's why I said it really was a catalyst there. I think both teams realized that this was the best way forward for both parties.
Right. So after that, you feel comfortable now?
Yeah. I think so. It's still too early. There might be some weirdness with minor things, but the major room for potential issues, I think, is the new inscription types, and we'll let that play out a little bit, and again go back to the coordination validation. But right now, I think we've done enough testing that shows that the entire history of the 0.9 upgrade aligns with the entire history of the 0.4914 with the additional rules that we implemented. So there's been some testing there. But yeah, it's only been 48 hours, so more time to go. But I was very happy with the conclusion. Let's leave it at that.
I mean, if I were to add, I was just monitoring whole conversation throughout, as it sort of unfolded. Everyone has to bear in mind, you're talking about 5-6 projects that are not insignificant and have own, if you like, vested interest, and could have easily worked to destroy the partnership for their own benefits. But I think in the hindsight, and there were at times when I thought about, oh my God, what may be the worst case here? But I think in the hindsight, it was actually great exercise and sort of reinforcing, and that's what Domo said in the chat, the time as well. It reinforced the partnership, and also we came out stronger. I think that was very important, and not only among the key the indexes, but also across BRC 20 and the ordinals team. And again, I'm not trying to be controversial, but some people did try to sort of, make an issue between, or supposedly that exists between the BRC 20 community and the ordinals community. But this particular incident really allowed us to demonstrate how we can work together. So that was very important in my view. In terms of how it actually went about, I think one of the early key insights that we had was there was a bit of misunderstanding that freeze to 0.9 means sticking to that particular version. But when people realize actually what is important is the consistency with what 0.9 produces, not about 0.9 itself. Then people realize, actually, you know what? We can upgrade to the latest, so long as we can make sure what it produces is consistent with the 0.9, because that's what the standard represents. So when people had that insight, everyone actually started working super fast. Being a sort of a nerd, everyone started sort of picking up their tools and then running the regression tests, and then start to find, okay, this particular feature doesn't produce the consistent result with what 0.9 says. So we could actually quickly turn into implementation of the changes we need to make, which then resulted in our as in BRC 20 communities flagging those changes that Domo mentioned that we'd like to have in the ordinals version itself. And again, the ordinals team took action very quickly based on our feedbacks. They incorporated it and then pushed, I think, within a day or so. All of which, again, you need to think this happened over the year end, not something people would have expected. So that sort of the speed at which we could collaborate without everyone is acting out of self-interest, but it was evident that everyone's self-interest is aligned to make the whole ecosystem bigger and better. And the fact that we could work together to get to where we are, I think that is actually I was moved, actually, to be honest. Yeah, that was the best drama I watched over the.
Did you drop some tears, Doctor?
安老师这一段话非常的重要，我要好好的翻译一下，因为非常的这个团结啊，这段话首先我觉得就是说安老师说这一段话，我觉得以一个大标题来讲，就是说我们这个BRC 20社区也好，Ordinal 社区也好，打不死的就更强大啊。首先我觉得就是这样总结一句话，然后嘛这句话后面我觉得分拆成2个点啊，其中一个点就是说非常的感谢 Ordinals Team。刚刚多莫也反复的强调，非常感谢 Ordinals Team。刚才博士也提到，就是 Ordinals 很多人说这个多莫和 Cassie 不合，但实际上不是这样的。在 BRC 20出现这个问题的时候，其实 Ordinals Teams 立马做出了这个非常迅速的反馈和反应，在24小时以内就对这些升级的一些需要做标签的地方做了迅速的反应和贴标签。那么这个是第一点，就是说这2个社区之间不但是没有矛盾，而且应该就是说用一句广东话讲叫什么爬居上啊，就是一个互相搭在一起，就是拍住上这种感觉啊，所以这个是第一，就还是非常团结啊。有安老师和博士，你们哭了吗？感动的哭了吗？
哭了。
哭了啊。然后第2点呢，就是说在 indexer 之间的这种矛盾和后来的团结啊，我觉得就是说，从一开始的矛盾到后面迅速的达成一致，并且迅速的进行这个 implementation 也是一个非常重要的点。就刚才安老师也提到了，当大家一开始觉得说升级不行，因为有很大的 discrepancy， 有很大的 risk， 有可能会对整个协议带来很大的伤害的时候，大部分的人是不同意升级的。但是在 Ordinals Team 做出了这些标记这些之后，然后大家发现说升级之后，如果能够达到跟0.9这个版本的标准一样的 consistency， 能够让这个 outcome， 让这个indexer 输出的结果有同样的稳定性和一致性的话，那么升级也不是不可以的。当大家在这个点上达到了共识之后，那么就迅速做出反应。那么剩下的就是说有共识达成一致之后，就是怎么去完善，然后去找一些 edge case， 去看一些这些 edge case 上面有没有风险，有没有什么。那么最终大家也其实是在1天吧，我记得也就是在1天之内，这个事情其实就搞好了。我记得那天可能还有几个小时就要升级了。然后是谁问我？是博士还是 C 问我说这个来不来得及？我记得我当时说来得及是吧？我当时说我觉得没有什么问题了啊，确实是最后也结果也是没有什么问题的。所以总的来讲，我觉得就是我希望我能够翻译到安老师这句话精髓的这个一半哈，就是总的来讲，这个事件是一个好的结果，然后希望就是一个更团结的社区。好，博士有什么要补充吗？
就一丢丢吧。我觉得 Ordinals Team，在我以前的推特里其实也写过，但是可能没人看哈，就是说出来可能更加直接一些。就是好多包括这个中文的写作者 KOL 会拿这个利益去衡量他们的决策，这种东西可能在开源作者像 domo 还有这个 Casey 他们身上可能都是不适用的。为什么呢？就是其实在这件事情本身也做出了一个很好的 demonstration 啊，就是很多说，Casey 想要推出他的Room 这个符文石，所以他不会支持 BRC20。No， 这个我觉得这是一个比较这个叫什么过于简单的一个推论啊。事实上，在得知到就是他们可以在协议层面加到一个小小标签，可以让 indexer 跑得更健壮的时候，他们其实只花了几个小时时间吧，就是从当天晚上可能1点多钟跟Ralph 大概聊完这个需求以后，他第2日我早上醒来的时候，他就已经说把这个 PR 已经提上去了，包括 Casey 已经把 PR 开出去了。所以我觉得这个整个 Ordinals 社区也好，这个 BRC20的这个 Community Enjoy 也好，就无论心里边他们从技术层面喜欢不喜欢，但其实在于开源层面的这种作者的这种大气程度啊，绝对不是说我有一个 Audi 所以我就利好的这种格局啊。对，我想补充这个吧，其实要声明一下，就是在开源作者其实是像神一样的存在或传奇一样的存在。对，我也挺感动的这件事情。
Unfortunately, Domo couldn't understand what you just said.
Okay, let me try to make it very simple. That I think the open source creator, the creator for the open source protocol is kind of legend. People cannot judge from the interest motivated to predict their actions. That's what I mean. I just say that I'm so touched by, Casey and Ralph, the Ordinals team, and the Domo. They contribute their time and everything, their knowledge, to just make things more robust. That's something that I try to tell my Chinese colleague, that we should not predict their actions according. Domo don't have Audi, so he will do this. Domo don't have a marketplace, he will do that. That's not correct. That's what I'm trying to tell them. Okay.
That's also why Domo always take a very neutral view, I would say. Okay, given the time limitation, let's come to the last category of the questions is what will happen next. So we will talk about the happy ending, and we all come together solving this issue. And I think one question from the community, from the broader audience would be, do we need to have any concern from here? Will this kind of situation happen again? If it happens again, then do we need to go through the drama again, or is there any better ways to solve this kind of issue? Domo?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, fortunately, I don't think we'll ever, fingers crossed, but be bound to make a decision in such a tight time frame in the future. I think this particular decision was forced upon us, and I think moving forward we can take the liberty to make decisions at a far enough place in the future that we can test and coordinate accordingly. I think aside from that, I think there was definitely some frustration that was aired this week. Whilst we have arrived at a good conclusion, it would be naive to assume that everything is happy and smooth and as it was before. So I think there definitely needs to be discussions over the coming weeks, so everyone's voice is heard, where people are unhappy, and ultimately where the community wants us to go, right? So I think great outcome, but more work needs to be done moving forward. We can't just continue business as usual, or else people will continue to be unhappy. So we need to hear their opinions.
OK，我这个一句话概括Domo说的就是，虽然现在这个问题解决了，但是实际上还有很多的工作需要去做，因为这种就是这么紧的时间提出这么大的问题，然后在这么快的时间里面去解决，不是一个应该常用的一个处理问题的一个手段和方式。那么后面的话，他可能会更多的去跟不同的 indexer 去聊，看他们在这件事情里面的一些 feedback， 也去跟社区听更多社区的声音，来看以后怎么更好的去解决类似的问题。那我觉得就是我们可能需要有更多更好的工具或者是方案来去在这些问题上面去做去做工作。博士，你有什么补充吗？在这个地方？
我想问个问题行吗？
可以。
Allow me to ask a question to Domo. That are we freezing at 0.14?
Yeah, I mean, I think we left that up in the air to see if there was any issues with 0.14. We found one potential strange inscription number discrepancy, but aside from that, nothing is of concern right now. And I think if that continues the remainder of the week, we'll likely pause to this version. But again, that will be pending a consensus across the indexing group.
Yeah, I noticed Casey was discussing about the Bittron like 2 days ago, that he was thinking maybe in the future, but not it's just prediction. I saw his discussion on Twitter. He said, okay, you say that Arduino's inscribed so many spam data into the blockchain. Let's maybe use a Tron to leave the data in the P2P network. So my question is, are we keep updating the indexer to the Arduino updates in the future? Maybe in the future that's not realistic, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think my perspective is I would see this as the last, like this is quite a considerable update from the org's perspective compared to the last ones. The last ones are incremental, reverse compatible, etc., etc. I would not expect an upgrade of this this level of disruptiveness for a large period of time, if ever. And I think really it only makes sense for us to continue updating with ORD if it provides incremental benefit to BRC20 itself. And I think from what I've seen coming up, there's very little evidence that future will provide that benefit. So I think the most logical outcome is freezing. I can't see where a Bitron would benefit BRC20 itself in the near term or short term.
Okay, thank you. 我可以快速的翻译一下，就是我们刚才的对话，就是我刚才有问他说，开玩笑的，就是那我们会不会冻结在0.1.4.0，对吧？冻结这个词儿其实很有趣，然后他就是我也包括说了一下 domo， 不是 sorry domo Casey 在他前面的推特里面其实有讨论过，就是Arduino 未来的升级，对吧？有一种1%的可能会使用这种 P2P 传输的这个 Bitron 的这个技术，那意味着这个未来的数据可能不一定放在 BRC20上了，对吧？不一定放在比特币链上了，可能放在这个 P2P 的这个网络上，或者放在 IPFS 其实被他已经否定掉了，对吧？这种技术线路的变更，我就问了一个比较开放性的问题吧，就是说未来我们一定要跟 Arduino 要完全这个匹配吗？它升级以后我们要完全升级吗？domo 的回答其实也是他会伺机择机而动吧，就是除非我们有更好的理由去升级或者怎么样的，对，大概是这个讨论啊。OK，I'm fine。
好，谢谢博士，自问自答。好，那我就问I will have a last question for Domo and Chan. Is I know Alex and Domo has been initiating the Bitcoin Oracle stuff. So it comes to the last question is, what do you expect Bitcoin Oracle to make difference, or what is the role of Oracle in this kind of situation? Do you see it will help or not if back into such a disagreement? Maybe Domo first, then I'll ask Chan.
Sure. Yeah. I guess like this coordination and validation infrastructure that I keep on banging on about, it's not some mysterious thing that's coming out in the future. Like those are very tangible products. I would say the Bitcoin Oracle is one of them. I would say OPI network is another one led by Best in Slot. And I'm sure there'll be many more in the future. Basically, like what I see those providing benefit is allowing the indexers to basically implement a update in unison and validate that both in a test environment and in a mainnet environment. So moving forward, I imagine that products like Bitcoin Oracle will help tremendously towards this kind of dispute resolution in the future. We just weren't quite there yet in terms of having that ready for this particular update, but I'm excited for the future when these are running in action. And I think a lot of the politics will be able to be avoided because it's really just like the proof's in the pudding. It's right there. Everyone can agree or disagree, and then there's dispute management handled accordingly. Chan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. If you think about one of the biggest worry that we had was what is going to happen to BRC20 if one of the key indexes diverge from the rest, and what if a good percentage of the BRC20 balances are based on those divergent indexes. and how do you reconcile those? How can you roll back, if you like? To be honest, that is a scary question, and that one that can destroy the whole economy that we have built. Now, if you then think about why we set out to build Bitcoin oracles and everything, the governance process and so on, is precisely to address that particular issue. Now, as Domo said, Bitcoin Oracle isn't there yet in terms of the broader adoption. We announced last month the roadmap and in alpha release, and we do expect to build out over the next a few months with the help from likes of Domo as well as the BIS, OPI, and other indexes, whereby Bitcoin Oracle will be act as a safety net to again facilitate indexers to have the discussion about the upgrades and give plenty of time to plan for, as well as prepare for the eventuality that some of the indexers may divert. And so long as the consensus among those indexers remain intact, then the outputs produced by Bitcoin Oracle based on that consensus will continue to serve the BRC community while the technical discussions and upgrades continue at the level of indexers. So from that perspective, I think it is important for us to continue development of such a safety net, as well as having a strong governance framework and the path forward for the upgrade as well. So in Taipei, when we were everyone was there, we were talking about the different levels of roles that indexers play and the Bitcoin Oracle, for example, play. And one thing interesting we talked about was we see the trend being the indexers aggregating multiple meta protocols, and we are already seeing that among the indexers, including likes of BIS, OPI, and Unisat. Whereas a while Bitcoin Oracle aggregates across those indexes. So that's the kind of multiple layers of protections that we do need if we were to build a sustainable ecosystem and economy based on the meta protocols, including BRC20. So again, I think everything that we have experienced, it has been a very, very valuable lesson. And then it also confirms that we are in the right direction. And I think it all comes down to how we execute over the next few months.
OK， 谢谢多莫和灿。所以灿，你刚才说的这一段话，我简单的问，就是说，如果未来有很多 indexer 都往这个 Bitcoin Oracle 里面喂数据的话，那么只是需要，如果大家输出的结果都一致，那么就没有问题。如果大部分的 indexer 输出一个结果，那么其中有小部分或者是两个 indexer 输出结果不一致，就会被 Oracle ignore 掉，对吗？
对的。So I mean, it really speaks about the consensus or the decentralization of the indexing, right? Instead of having one particular player dominate and dictate the landscape, if any one particular player diverges from the majority, and automatically that output which diverges from the consensus will be filtered out, and therefore the impact, if you like, or the power yielded by a single player gets automatically diminished, which I think is very important in terms of the decentralization.
所以一句话总结一下，就是整个 Bitcoin Oracle 的核心目标就是提供更加去中心化的一个解决方案，并且达成一定的治理方案来为未来这些可能同样类似的事件找到一个更好的解决方案。OK， 好绕啊，我这句话我绕进去了。OK，
辛苦 Richard 这个。
Yeah, I think we are done with the questions. And Domo, I noticed that we already passed 1 hour. It's almost 1.5 hours. So if you have other things to do, then you can as well. You guys can just leave this space, and three of us can do some chit chat in Chinese.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to, like, maybe my last words. I just want to, like, thank, like, all the indexers. I know that sounds cheesy, and that's including Unisat. Like, I think this was publicly, for whatever reason or not, Twitter likes to frame things as very contentious battles, etc., but ultimately it was a group effort across all indexers. I think for, like, OKX, Hero, Best in Slot, and Unisat all contributed something towards the resolution. So just wanted to say that I was thankful for each and every one of them, and I think again, happy with the way that the outcome is, and excited for the future. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Right, thank you. Sorry, my fault. I was thinking about I give everyone one last line before we end up this space, but anyway, it just ran out of my head. But Domo 说最后他想谢谢大家，然后谢谢所有的这个社区的朋友，以及谢谢所有的这些 indexers。最后无论这个最初的这个争论是什么，最后都达成了一个很好的结果。他个人表示很开心，然后也对所有的 indexer 表示感谢，因为大家都在一个很短的时间里面做了一件非常了不起的事情。好，那 Chan 也给你最后一句话的时间。就一
No，
句话。
我已经讲完了，谢谢。
Okay, cool. Thanks, Domo. Thanks, Chan, for the very amazing 1.5 hours. Thanks for coming. I think our our audience and our community are all very grateful to your joining and explaining what has happened. Okay. C 还有博士，你们有没有什么要说的？在我们散场之前，我们有没有什么要说的？
对啊，其实晚上 Space 开的还蛮舒服的。这个，对，我觉得 Domo 他已经走了，对，他觉得他最后讲的这些就是确确实实不容易啊，就是达成这么利益，又是安老师也要走了吗？回首。
好吧，我也走了，拜拜。
拜拜。对，我觉得怎么蛮不容易的，这是社区的胜利吧？我觉得这是共识的再一次凝聚吧。可能 BRC 20就像这个叫什么？这个经济学人把比特币比着是什么知道吗？比特币比成小强。前2天的那个经济学人把比特币比成了这个蟑螂，就是说你想打死它，但你也打不死它，对吧？就是 BRC 20，我觉得经过这一次的这个共识再凝聚的一个过程，其实我对 BRC 20就反而更有信心了。对。
好 ，C 呢 ？C 一直没说话，就是我觉得以后还是开英文的了。我好累。
这个非常非常辛苦 Rachel 和博士的主持，因为我的英文不够好，所以我没有参与这个交流辛苦2位。然后我听下来的感受呢，就是我觉得Domo非常了不起。其实他一直在克制他作为一个BRC 20这个协议的创始人，他本来应该是对于社区他应该有很多的影响力，但是他自己在故意的去限制他自己对于社区的很多发声。对，所以然后我能感受到的是他整个过程中他非常的隐忍，然后但是他非常同时又很有智慧的去在多个利益相关方里面去周旋，然后最后在比较短的时间以内达成了一个可能还算是很好的一个结果。对，另外就是我很动容的一点就是博士讲到的，就是说 Audinos 团队包括就是 Casey 他们这个团队，其实对于BRC 20，尽管他可能以前也曾经发表过对 BRC 20的一些看法，觉得 BRC 20给整个比特币网络带来很多的垃圾的一些铭文，但是在这一次 BRC 20出现问题的时候，他们作为这个开源的一个团队，因为 BRC 20本质上还是基于 Audinos， 他们其实也给了很多的一些支持和快速的响应，而这个响应可能未来我觉得也给 BRC 20其实带来了很多新的一些也不能叫新的可能性，应该说夯实了一些基础。对，可能对未来的升级和2个协议的这个融合是提供了一些保障吧。 对，这是我的一些感受，然后也对，非常非常对，多么已经走了，对，听不到，非常感谢多么和安老师的支持吧，
他们走了，我们可以好好感谢一下。
不要让他们知道。但我觉得 C 提到一点我觉得很重要，就是一个人他就是像多么他在他那个位置上要那样克制，甚至是不做什么，而是主要是去听这个共识啊，其实是很不容易的，真的是非常不容易的。因为人的惯性就是说我觉得我说的是对的，你们都应该听我的。至少我觉得我好像是这样的。
对，而且其实很多时候，一个人你在一个位置上，你很容易觉得自己有某一些权利，对吧？或者你对社区有某种想要也许我不知道，中国人可能这样想的比较多，会觉得这个事儿部分我能说了算，或者我能控制一些什么事情，我能影响一些什么事情。但是我觉得多么身上他在是我不知道是天生的，还是说他自己在尝试去控制和收敛他的这种权利，这个是很难得的一件事情。
对，确实是。我觉得他这回是很不容易的啊，因为我觉得我也是围观全过程吧，虽然没有贡献什么，围观全过程，我觉得，他在这次事件下面其实是非常非常不容易的。像他讲，他过去这个124小时是非常难过的啊，因为如果一旦这个共识被打破，那么像博士刚才也讲到嘛，其实共识形成是很难的，共识要被打破是很容易的。就只要有一个人，不干了，撂挑子了，那这个共识就打破了。但好在我觉得大家都是非常负责任的。
对的，对的。
我们要不要开放 stage 让大家聊一会儿？
可以啊，但是不要，但是请上来提问的人不要问哪个币能不能买这种问题，我们
不是他可以问，我们可以不回答，没关系。
对，现在有2位朋友在举手，要不我们先把他们邀请上来。
对，可以聊，可以中文聊的比较顺畅一些啊。这个英文其实翻译的话会把多么的节奏给打断掉，是。
OK。Hello，
博士，你们大家好。
首先是
我有一个问题问一下你们，因为我进来比较晚啊，我没有听到，就说这个共识是什么样的共识，能够简短给我说一下吗？谢谢。
共识就是索引维持在0.90的共识，是去年几月份啊？10月份还是9月份达成的？10月份达成的，就是所有的索引，大家的共识是在0.90，大家不动。对，但是因为这个升级 Jubilee 的事情就容易造成这个，比如说有一部分人升级到0.14版本，有一部分人留在0.90版本，那这种共识就被打破了。所以这种共识打破的后果就是 BRC20有可能就余额对不上了，就谁的 Audi， 你的 Audi 跟我的 Audi 不一样了，就这个意思。对。
那这共识以后呢？大家就是说14以后和09还一样的，对吧？还用同样的。
现在经过升级以后，从昨天开始说，大家都共同升级到了按一个标准，就是按照这个排除，比如说 delegate 功能，排除0.19的这个部分功能以后，这个升级到大家共同升级到这个0.14。对，但这个规则实际上也是一种共识嘛，对吧？这个 domo 的推特上有几点这个规则嘛，就大家都升级到0.14，但是呢不含新版本的3个方面的内容，3个方面的升级的这个内容，一个是 delegate， 一个是叫 linkation 吧，好像是对，然后大家又在同样一个定义下跑 BRC20的索引嘛。
OK， 因为我前2天看到那个 Unisite 出了那个 option， 让选一下啊。还有一个问题，我不知道可以问吗？比方说现在是 BRC20， 我昨天听一个 Twitter Space 是 CBRC 20， 这2个的主要 difference 是什么呀
？difference 在我的 Twitter 上有个详细的介绍。
我知道，一个是40个 byte， 一个是什么90多个 byte。那除了这一点点，那其他还有最重要的是什么呢？
最重要的就是他们觉得他们的索引是兼容0.10版本以后的， 他用的 Meta Protocol 的这种技术，那他认为它是可以跟随 Ordinals 升级到0.14嘛，这是它的一个重要的一个跟 BRC20不一样的地方。但事实上 BRC20也是可以经过努力，然后经过各种各样重新的共识形成，也是可以在0.14的这么一个水准。
好嘞，好嘞，好嘞，谢谢。
clear 清楚了。
清楚了，感谢。
关注金狗博士就什么答案都有啊，我觉
对
得。
对对对对，金狗博士是我们的老朋友，都关注了。
好，请那位XYD，你名字怎么念？请你发言吧。
小易，
当时 domo 在，我其实想上来问问 domo，实际上也问问博士吧，就是我提一个设想啊，那现在的话BRC20或者 Ordinals 是基于这种铭刻在葱上面这种方式，那4月份的话 KC 把它的 Rune Protocol 正式版推出来，会不会再往后发展就会形成这2个协议都可以基于 Rune 这种协议去往后去慢慢做一个发展，也是类似于喜年这个升级一样，也是定义成一个区块之后，这个区块之后，整个 BRC20的无论是再次有一些铭文的部署，都可以去基于 Rune 这个套东西去铭刻或者说是打，然后这样的话也不会再去造成这个比特币链上 UTXO 的堆积，对比特币链上造成这个压力，有这个可能性出现吗？想问一下博士。
我不知道，这个技术线路不一样，但是你要硬那个最终可能是也是取决于技术线路的演变吧。我觉得你非要说可能的也是可能的，对吧？我把所有奥迪销毁在那边重新发个奥迪就好了，但是大家不会这么去做吧？所以2套技术线路应该会共存吧，大概率。
因为海哥你说。
sorry，我补充一点，我觉得根据现在Casey 对于 Runes 这个协议的公布的一些想法，Runes 大概率是基于也是跟像 Atomics 还有 Pipe 协议一样，可能会是基于UTXO 的模型，然后 BRC20 还是在 Ordinals 上面，所以这2个应该还是2条相对很独立的2个路径吧。
对，但是我之前一直有关注 Unisat 的新推文啊。Unisat 的话，基于 BRC20协议，他说 Module Extension 里面先是 Swap，然后 Lighting，再往下是 Runes。我挺期待 Unisat 基于 BRC20 杠 Runes 这一套东西，它会怎么样一个升级？也许这个东西可能就是在之后的一些发展，我是这样去设想的啊。
这个可能还得找 Lorenzo 再单独的来一场 Space。
Lorenzo，
这个
你说
不知道
我这 Atomics 还没整明白呢，又让我整 Rune，不要我活了。
对，
但其实小易说的问题啊，这个 Atomics 有一种就是这种在底层似乎是相通的，但是我只是头脑风暴，我只是觉得ARC20跟另外一个基于 POW 的 JSON 格式的任意代币，它有机会通过 sets 是可以通起来的。但我觉得这是个好问题啊，就是 JSON 格式的非 UTXO based 的 token 将来怎么去跟 UTXO 的这套东西去 swap 也好，去兼容也好，对吧？这个是很好的一个研究方向。
这个脑洞好大，我觉得。
对，这个点实际上本身是基于不同的基础模型去做的一套索引。那只要索引这个共识能够达成，就是本身是 Casey 都是 Casey 发的嘛，一个是 Rune，一个是 Ordinals 底层。现在的话，domo 啊 Unisat 与 Casey 达成了 BRC20的一个共识。那后面的话有没有可能真的是 Ordinals 跟 Rune 又达成一个这个索引层面的一个共识，有一个共同的标准？这个一个是头脑风暴，确实一个脑洞。
这个脑洞很大，我觉得蛮有意思的一个问题。
对，我们的共识都是比特币，都在比特币上面，所以可能都有机会是一样的。都是通过比特币的葱。
对，然后现在没有朋友举手了，还有没有朋友想上来聊几句的？如果没有的话，我们就差不多。
好呀。
没有的话，我要准备歌了吗？
你要准备歌来 BTC 的歌，
我觉得今天这个市场还是蛮有趣的，因为我们也聊了一天这个市场
Rachel，你要讲讲这个市场的情况吗？
市场是反弹了吗？来啊来，
大饼涨了，
我也不知道
大饼涨了，其他的
你最近买啥了？
我也没看， 我也没看懂啊，对吧？我以为要涨，然后我今天早上起来一看都在跌，然后就想完了，这是通不过吗？然后刚才那个比特币又过了45000了，然后我就想，哎，那这是过了，所以情绪很纠结。
他们说好多
嗯
是卖山寨买比特币，是因为要过，这个逻辑能通吗？
我确确实看到有些人卖 Alex 买 Stacks， 是这个逻辑。对，因为这个很奇怪，就大家的这个情绪哈，就有时候不一样。那像现在，比如说看今天 Stacks 涨得非常好，对吧？就是一枝独秀的涨，就涨到刚才过了2块，实际上昨天才多少1.4、1.5的样子，现在涨到2块。然后我确确实实看到有人换仓啊，有人换仓。那么在这个逻辑下面，是不是大盘币可能表现更好一些？是有可能的。
嗯，不知道，这个是他
搞反了，
们跟我说的，
应该
说
是
大家为什
应该是
么山寨对
对啊，应该是卖掉
卖
Stacks
卖比特
Alex，
币？
希望是，结果反着来。但我觉得是这样，有可能是说前一段他获利了结了嘛，对吧？
啊哈，
因为像买 ORD 的，或者是买 SATS 的，甚至是买 Alex 的，因为这些都涨了很多倍了。那么获利了结的，那他现在他要回归。我们以前就是做投行，有句话叫 fly to quality， 就是一到年底大家就会跟你说 fly to quality。fly to quality 是什么意思呢？就是说你把你的钱都回到你最安全的资产上面去。它实际上是有这样一个概念在里面。但是当这个不需要避险的情绪，或者说这个 risk on 的情绪起来的时候，大家又会去买这些小盘币嘛，因为它的 alpha 更多一些。
对，所以我们应该算了，不能 financial advice 私聊。
所以我们应该
我们应该
该干啥？
对，
我们应该继续搞好我们的 space， 聊一些
OK
深刻的话题，发扬我们的这个 space 的精神。行吧，好吧，也过了10点。
今天放这个叫什么？啊？什么？
还有吗？歌
有啊。今天不放 PTC 吧？放个，这应该给那个谁放的Mr. Thank You 是吧？
我觉得你特别逗。
这应该给周末放个 Thank You 啊 ，Mr. Thank You。
你回头单独去给他放一个。OK， 好吧，那就跟大家说再见了。然后我们
拜拜，
感谢大家，对，拜拜。
Mr. Thank you says to me, come follow me and just let it be. Let it all go tonight. Let it be, it will be alright. Let it all go tonight. Let it be, it will be alright. Let it fly, baby, let it go with me tonight. Let it fly, get that money, enjoy your life. Whenever I need money, I ask him to help me. He sends it to my bank account immediately. I wish to have a house and a car for free. Mr. Thank You came and gave them to me. For my birthday, I wished for 1,000,000 gifts. Mr. Thank You bought me all that exists. Just follow your heart and follow your dream. Follow Mr. Thank You to become like him. Mr. Thank You says to me, come follow me and just let it be. Let it all go tonight. Let it be, it will be alright. Let it all go tonight. Let it be, it will be alright. Let it fly, baby, let it go with me tonight. Let it fly, get that money, enjoy your life.
OK，歌也听完了，那我们就到这儿吧，大家再见，我们下个星期再见，拜拜。